threw me off. Thank you very much. I'll have an opening in French and English. I'm sure by Alistair McGregor, and then I look forward to your questions. I believe that Canadians should feel safe in their homes, should feel safe going to work and coming back. I feel like people should know they can participate in our democracy and not be influenced by or impacted by foreign interference. But when there are guns and gangs and bullets flying, all Canadians are impacted by that. And that's why I've been very disappointed or very deeply disturbed by what the RCMP raised. The allegations that they put forward last week are deeply, deeply disturbing, that a foreign government, that the Indian government, hired gangs, hired thugs to shoot at Canadians' homes, to shoot at Canadian businesses, to extort people, to threaten people, to kill people. This is very serious, something that we should all be deeply worried about. I'm disappointed that the Liberals were so reluctant to start a public inquiry. It's become very clear that we needed that public inquiry, but they were very reluctant, and they've been very slow to act, and that's something that's disappointing. But what I cannot understand is the behavior of Pierre Poilievre. At a time when we have serious ongoing threats to Canadians, I look at this and say, I love my country. I love Canadians. I love the people here. I love our democracy. As a leader, I'm going to do everything possible to protect people, to protect our country. I don't understand why a leader wouldn't agree with me. And so the fact that Pierre Poilievre refuses still to get security clearance, refuses to understand the gravity of what's going on, particularly when there are allegations of foreign interference that directly touch his party, the fact that he refuses to get briefed on this sends a message to the Indian government, to Prime Minister Modi, to the Modi government, that he is willing to look away while they engage in criminal activity on Canadian soil. That is wrong. What he is doing is putting his party ahead of the country. And this is a situation that demands us put our country first and party second. So that's why today we're going to be calling for a number of things. I'll be asking for a unanimous consent following question period for a committee to be struck, a Canada-India committee to be struck, much like the Canada-China committee, for an ongoing investigation into foreign interference and for parliamentarians to look at what's going on. I'll also be asking the Speaker to consider an emergency debate today looking into the Indian government's foreign interference. And we repeat our calls. Alistair McGregor was on the committee that called for an emergency meeting of the Public Safety Committee, but we'll be renewing our call for the RSS to be banned. It's an extreme right-wing organization that engages in violence and divisive behavior that's from India, that has branches in Canada. We'll be continue to call for severe and strict sanctions on those Indian diplomats, specifically that were named and that were expelled. And we'll also be asking for Canada to consider a freezing of information sharing of security or CSIS or other intelligence between Canada and India, given the severity of these allegations. This is a situation that demands putting country first, and I'm committed, my team and I are committed to protecting Canadians at this time. I'll do that again in French, and then I look forward to your questions. Donc, ce que la GRC a partagé, c'est vraiment inquiétant. Ils ont partagé des allégations que le gouvernement de l'Inde engage des gangs ici au Canada pour des fusillades aux maisons des Canadiens, aux entreprises canadiennes, menace les gens. C'est tellement inquiétant. Je pense que je suis déçu que le gouvernement libéral n'était pas d'accord avec une enquête publique et on a dû forcer le gouvernement d'agir. Et je suis tellement inquiété par les actions de Pierre Poilievre. Le fait qu'il ne veut pas savoir ce qui se passe, il ne veut pas avoir son code de sécurité dans une situation où il y a une menace qui continue de le gouvernement de l'Inde. C'est quelque chose que je ne peux pas comprendre. J'adore notre pays, j'adore notre démocratie et je veux faire tout ce que je peux pour le défendre. Je ne comprends pas pourquoi M. Poilievre ne veut pas prendre toutes les actions nécessaires pour défendre notre pays. Donc aujourd'hui, on va demander deux choses. Je veux demander consentement unanime pour créer un comité Canada-L'Inde pour mieux enquêter ce qui se passe. Et deuxièmement, je vais demander au président dans la Chambre de communes d'avoir un débat d'urgence concernant l'ingérence étrangère spécifiquement de l'Inde, du gouvernement de l'Inde. Finalement, on répète ce qu'on a demandé. D'ailleurs, on répète le fait qu'on doit geler le partage d'informations avec l'Inde, avec les allégations qu'on a entendues. On doit mettre en œuvre des sanctions sévères sur les diplomates de l'Inde et on doit aussi bannir l'organisme RSS. On doit à ce moment mettre le pays en avant, que notre parti, on doit défendre le pays. Merci.
Monsieur Singh, pourquoi ce comité parlementaire? Parce qu'après tout, il y a déjà une enquête publique. Il y a déjà un comité de parlementaires qui, eux, ont leur code de sécurité. Et qu'est-ce qu'un comité comme celui-là pourrait apporter de plus dans le contexte?
Je pense qu'avec des allégations assez graves qu'on a entendues des GRC, c'est une situation qu'on n'a jamais prévisée. Donc, ce que le comité Canada-Chine a montré, c'est une opportunité de garder cette question d'ingérence en tête, de continuer avec le travail. Et je pense qu'on a une situation assez sévère, assez sérieuse, qui demande d'avoir un comité qui est chargé avec ce travail et continue de faire ce travail.
Est-ce que vous pensez que M. Trudeau va survivre à la fronde au sein de son parti? Et vous, est-ce que vous pouvez encore appuyer son gouvernement, sachant qu'il est dans une position très, très affaiblie en ce moment? Qu'est-ce que vous en pensez?
Concernant le futur de M. Trudeau, je pense que ce que tue le brouhaha, toute la situation dans le Parti libéral, ce que ça montre, c'est une partie à ce moment qui a des troubles, qui est ciblée sur leurs propres intérêts et leur propre futur au lieu des problèmes qui touchent la vie des gens. Et ça, c'est pourquoi je invite les gens qui ont de la difficulté dans leur vie, qui ont peur des coupures conservatrices de Pierre Poilievre, de joignez-vous à nous. On est là pour vous, on cible vos intérêts et on est là pour continuer d'utiliser notre pouvoir pour soulever vos inquiétudes et proposer des solutions. Donc, je vous invite à joindre à nous.
Mais est-ce que c'est encore crédible de l'appuyer, d'après vous, comme chef du NPD?
Donc, avec la question de qu'est-ce qu'on va faire avec des votes, si on parle de comment concrètement on parle de cette décision, on va regarder chaque vote. Donc, si c'est un vote sur un enjeu ça va aider les gens, ça va aider les Canadiens, on va voter oui. Si c'est un enjeu qu'on n'est pas d'accord, on va voter non. Donc, on va évaluer chaque vote.
Have me ask you in English, on the disarray in the House, can you explain if there's been any conversations between you and the Liberal House Leader or anybody else in your office or the Liberal government that looks at finding a way out of it? Is there any negotiation or any ask being put forward by the NDP to agree to time allocation in exchange for something?
House leaders are having ongoing conversations, so that's absolutely happening. But there is no negotiations beyond that in any other level involving me.
No request on the table in exchange for
No,
a vote
so
to
I'm
end
getting
debate.
to that. Yeah. Okay. So there's just the House leaders having conversations, but there's no other negotiation beyond that. We're not putting anything forward at this point. What we're seeing right now is that the Liberal government needs to be held to account. So they've got to do what's right. And the Conservatives are certainly playing games. There's no question about it. They have no interest in Parliament functioning. But I really believe that Justin Trudeau and the Liberals could follow through and put forward the information that's been requested and move forward with that. They could put forward a motion to actually have the censure brought forward. Like, they could do the substance of what's being requested, and we could move forward. The Conservatives are absolutely playing games, have no interest in Parliament working, but the Liberals need to be held to account.
On the turmoil within the Liberal caucus, does that in any way influence your decision on whether or not to continue supporting them?
What's going on in the Liberal caucus shows me that they're really seized with or focused on themselves. And they've got their own troubles, their own problems, and are worried about that. And so they don't have the bandwidth. They can't really focus on what's going on with you and your life, people's lives. They can't really focus on what you're dealing with. But we can. And so I invite people that are worried about Conservative cuts of Pierre Poilievre, who are looking at the Liberals and saying, these guys are all focused on themselves, and they seem to be in disarray. Join us this time. We're here for you. We're going to fight for you. We're going to use the power that we have to continue to raise your voice and focus on your needs and your demands. That's what our focus is.
Are the NDP happy to just let the paralysis continue? You're saying the Liberals should just comply with the motion. So you're happy for the status quo to just continue?
I think the Liberals should actually move forward. Like, I think they're to blame because they're not moving forward with accountability. And the Conservatives are absolutely to blame for playing games. They're absolutely playing games. They have no interest in Parliament functioning. But that's not new. They've always been like that. The Liberals need to follow through with what's being requested. They need to show accountability, and the House can move forward.
Disarray right now, is this not your political opportunity to extract more out of the government? Can you explain to New Democrat voters, people who voted for you before, why you're not negotiating with the Liberals and not trying to use this moment of weakness with Mr. Trudeau to gain more for the people who voted for you previously?
Right now, we're focused on a number of things. We know that the pharmacare bill has been passed, and we want to see negotiations with provinces. So we're going to urge the government to negotiate and make sure people can get free birth control, people can get free diabetes medication and devices. So we'll be urging the Prime Minister and the Liberals to make those negotiations happen and sign those agreements. We want to see people get the benefits now. The bill has been passed, but people still don't have medication for free. So we want to see that benefit in people's lives. They want to see people save money, people get the medication they need. So that's one thing we want to see happen. And the Liberals right now, they're the authors of their own demise right now. They need to show accountability and things can move forward.
What do you think of the election result in BC, and is this a cautionary tale for a future federal election?
I think the BC election was, it's a tough election, no question about it. It's one where people were certainly frustrated and feel like life is becoming harder and harder. And we saw that in the results. But we also saw that New Democrats can fight back against Conservatives. And at a time that this is the question that was in front of British Columbians was a question that Canadians are going to be faced with: what kind of future do you want? And the future that Conservatives propose, both in that election and for the future, is one where they want to cut your health care. They want to cut the things that you need. They want to cut pensions and cut dental care and cut pharmacare. They want to cut the things that you and your family need. Or what we propose, which is to strengthen things you need, strengthen pensions, fix our health care. These are the choices that people will have to make. They made it in this election, and New Democrats show that we're the only ones that can fight back against Conservatives. And this next election is not going to be easy, but it is the same fight. What type of future do we want? Do you want Conservative corporate buddies ripping you off, or do you want lower prices for food and groceries? That's the choice that Canadians have in the next election, and we're going to be here to say, we've got your back.
What lessons are you going to take from, the aftermath of the BC election? Clearly, there's appetite for conservative rule there that we haven't seen recently.
There's going to be a lot of lessons we're going to evaluate and learn from the campaign, but I think generally what we're seeing is there's a fight for the future of our country, and that fight is coming down to the vision of Conservatives and the vision of New Democrats. And the Conservative vision that Pierre Poilievre is repeating and echoing is one of cuts. They want to cut the things you need. And there is a big message that they're putting forward to cut your health care, to cut pensions, to cut the things you need. And we've got to fight back. And it's not an easy fight, but we got to fight back with our vision. Our vision is, let's strengthen the things you need. Let's make life more affordable. Let's take on the high cost of groceries and lower them so you can afford them. So these are really important questions. And I saw in the BC election, similarly, what the fight will be for us at the federal level. But it's coming down to a fight between the Conservative cuts and New Democrat hope and relief. And I want folks to know that we're going to keep on fighting as hard as we can for you.
Vous avez besoin de temps quand même pour faire ça, non? Vous avez besoin encore de temps pour imprimer ce message-là dans l'esprit des électeurs, non? Parce qu'on regarde ce qui se passe en Colombie-Britannique, on dirait que le message n'est pas complètement compris, là.
C'est un travail difficile. Avec tous les travaux, ça va prendre du temps, ça va prendre de l'énergie. On est prêt. On est prêt pour amener cette bataille. Je comprends l'importance. Je sais qu'il y a des gens qui ont vraiment peur de ce que Pierre Poilievre et les conservateurs présentent comme vision pour le pays. Ils ont peur parce que le futur proposé par Pierre Poilievre est un futur où on ne prend pas soin les uns des autres. On laisse quelqu'un à faire ce qu'il peut seul. Notre vision est différente. On pense qu'on doit prendre soin les uns des autres. On doit aider les gens autour de nous. On doit aider nos voisins. Ça, c'est notre vision, avec des programmes comme les soins de santé, comme des soins de santé. Comment on peut mieux aider les gens autour de nous? Ça, c'est notre vision. Les conservateurs veulent couper. Leur vision, c'est l'individu va faire ce qu'il va faire seul. On pense que c'est un futur qui n'est pas bon pour monsieur, madame, tout le monde. C'est un futur excellent pour les ultra-riches, mais un un futur qui ne fonctionne pas pour les classes ouvrières, pour les travailleurs. Donc, on va continuer de présenter notre vision pour le futur de notre pays. On sait que c'est un travail difficile, mais on est prêt. Merci. Merci beaucoup.